because if you don't have a law degree, like I didn't, then in 3 years, essentially, you could be up and running as a barrister.
Wait. What do you mean 3 years?
Well, let's walk back through my journey, shall we? So you've got some kind of degree, but yeah. So it doesn't matter what the degree's in, but you've got some degree. That qualifies you to do a graduate course because you're a graduate. So then you can do the 1 year law intensive degree. So that's year 1. Then you do the bar course, which you can do in a year. That's year 2. Then you do the pupillage, because you can apply for pupillage even while you're doing your 1 year intensive law degree. You can apply for pupillage whilst you're doing the bar vocational course. So that as soon as you finish, you don't have that delay, because remember, you can apply 18 months in advance, and then you go straight into it. And there are a number of chambers and a number of organizations that will fund you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Six Figure Girl Dem. So this evening, we are going to be having an incredible guest, which I am telling you, you are going to love it. So just so for anyone that's coming for the first time, Forward Thinking is a network. It's a platform that supports you guys who want to earn more money, who want to get further in their career, who believe that there's more inside of them than what you are producing now. So we've created this opportunity, not just interviews, but if you sign up on our Facebook page, you will have access to our different tools that we have available in terms of how to interview, how to plan your career, how to transition, and all these wonderful opportunities for you guys to network with people that are making 6 figures plus. So without further ado, I would like to introduce a barrister in London, one of the top family barristers in London. And guess what? She's black and she's doing it really well. So you're going to be in for a treat. So this evening, I want to welcome Melissa Harrison.
Hi, that was quite an introduction.
Got to do your bit for the people then.
Thanks.
So people, this is Melissa Harrison. She is an awesome barrister that has been crushing it for a decade at least. And I really am privileged to know her, but also to have the opportunity for her to share her journey. So Melissa, tell us about yourself. Where did you grow up?
I grew up, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me on, Bill. I feel very, very privileged to be on this. So thank you for letting me be part of the select few who are going to be able to be on this series. So where did I grow up? I grew up in Brockley, South East London, SE4. Amazing area.
Define amazing. So are we talking like suburbs? Because I'm not from South London, so I can't relate. So could just for those that don't know what SE4 looks like.
Sure. Anybody who is from Brockley will love that you considered that might be one of the options as to what Brockley is like. It's fine. It's a very how can I put this? It's an okay area. It's in zone 2 of London. There's a lot going on.
It's fine. I'm not going to put you on the spot. Yeah. I feel like I just dug something out there. Let me close the door.
I'm just going to leave. Yeah, it's just an area in Southeast London. It is what it is. If you know it, you know it. If you don't, you're not missing out on a great deal.
Cool. So, grew up in Brockley. When you go to school now, you go to school in Brockley. What school? Was it public, private school in Brockley?
Well, no, I didn't go to school in Brockley, and that was a very intentional choice on the part of my mum. She took me and my sisters out of the area for schooling. So I actually went to school in another part of Southeast London, which is called Lee. It's quite near Eltham, which I know quite a few people might have heard of. And it was an independent school, so a private day school.
Got it. And you was there from what age?
From age 2.5 all the way up to 16.
And in terms of that wonderful school, what was the ratio in terms of white, Asian, black? How did that work?
It's a really, really small school. So every year, I think, had 1 to 2 forms. There was no more than that.
So how many kids in
And
class? Like 20?
well, I always remember this because we thought it was a really big class and a really big year. My whole year group in year 6 was 27 children. I thought that was pretty big. And they put us in one class, and we were all like, "Goodness me, look at all of these people in our class. This is a lot." So yeah, that gives you the picture in terms of size. In terms of ratio, I think that there was probably, of that, say 30, let's say, there were probably 2, no more, maximum 4 black children in that through up to secondary school. And then I think we might have got maybe an extra 1 when we got to secondary school. But that was about it. And then yeah, maybe a few less Asian people, but majority white, put it like that.
So obviously that's your normal, right?
Yeah, totally.
You don't know
That's what I
anything
thought
different.
everything was like. That's what I thought.
Right.
Yeah.
So then now leaving that environment, going to college, what does that look like?
Well, that didn't change my perception, Lekin, because I went to sixth form in an area which is called Welling in Kent. And for those of your listeners who don't know, Welling used to be the former headquarters of BNP, the BNP party.
Right.
Right. So I was still in a minority there. The numbers didn't increase. They decreased. I think there were only 3. It was much larger then. So let's say there were 60 people, and then there were about 3 black people, 3 or 4, including me, always including me, 3 or 4. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So GCSEs went well?
Yes, they went all right. They went all right.
A's and B's?
Yeah, 1 C. What are you gonna do? Yeah.
It's fine, man. Grace.
Great. Yeah, thanks.
So when you're now going into A levels, what did you study?
I studied. Well, I knew when I was going into A levels that I wanted to be a barrister specifically, not a solicitor, but a barrister. So traditionally, there were subjects that if you wanted to study the law at that time were good to choose. And English and history were those 2 subjects. And I always loved languages, so I chose French as well. Mm-hmm. So those were my A levels.
So A levels go well?
A levels go terribly.
How terrible?
Yeah, A levels go terribly. It's a phenomenon that I still don't quite understand. I went in with amazing grades. No one really knows what happened there. To be fair, it's a blip that's bothered me, but doesn't bother me anymore. But they went really badly. Like, everybody was in shock. Still don't know what happened.
What was you predicted?
3 A's and a B.
And you received
2 C's and 2 D's.
Right. So first choice university out of it then, I assume.
Well, here's the interesting thing. I really wanted to go to Reading University. I just liked the uni, I liked the area. I had intended to go to Reading to study law. When those grades came in, understandably, the Faculty of Law had a few more questions about my capability and what exactly was going on there. And so I was then faced with the decision that, did I continue with law or did I continue with my university choice?
Right.
I can't say what it was, but I was just confident that I was going to end up being a barrister.
Wow.
And I knew that I had, as most people do in their lives, although the way that our society is structured, it doesn't necessarily lend itself to you thinking about it this way, but we all have loads and loads of interests beyond this one single career that we might do. And as I said earlier, I really loved languages. I love politics. So I said, okay, let's stick to the uni, and let's pick another degree subject, which is a really interesting choice, I think, looking back on it, because I was so fixed on the law. I would have thought that Melissa would have picked the degree choice over the institution, but I didn't do that. And I'm glad I didn't, actually. I'm really
So
glad.
Reading let you in with the CCDD,
Yeah,
and
one
but they
interview
said
on the
you
phone
can't do
and let me
law.
in.
But you
Say that
can't do
again?
law. But you can't
Can't
do
do
law.
law. Can't do law. They say not with those grades. You can't. You might be able to. Well, they say to me you might be able to switch in the first year,
Pending you
and
getting a
then
first person or being on track for a first.
no, as in I can't remember what the conditions were, but I remember that I chose not to do that.
Cool. So what did you choose?
I chose to continue with my degree choice of French and International Relations.
Wow. And then so how many is that? You 3 years?
4 years because I spent a year in France as part of the degree. I think that was in no small way influencing my decision. I like the sound of that.
Right. So this is really unique because if we did a survey and we asked how many people studied abroad at uni or even or something at that point in some people's lives left the country,
Yeah.
how does that work from a black girl from Brockley deciding to go to France on her own? Was it like an exchange program where you stay with a French family, or was it you on your own fending for yourself?
It was really, you had the option of either working or studying. I wanted to study. And so you really were, I suppose, on your own a bit. You had to find your own accommodation once you were enrolled in the university, which your home university set up because at that time we were in Europe, so we had we had good links going on. But you were pretty much on your own. And I think to answer some of the points as to how do I think I got there, I think that was one of the wonderful things about growing up in the home that I did and growing up in the school that I did. And I know that sometimes some people struggle with the benefits of sending a child to an independent school, given that everybody should leave with GCSEs. So, why would you do that? And one of the reasons why I think I'm definitely indebted to my school, and in particular, obviously my family, but my school, because the way in which they taught us, the way of looking at life was not, why would it be me? But why would it not be me?
Wow. That's
So
incredible.
and I'm so grateful because that has been a foundation principle of my life that has shaped a great deal of my decision making. So why wouldn't I go to France? Sounds like fun. Let's do it. So
Wow.
that's really why it didn't faze me. It was a tough year, goodness me, because I faced a lot of racism in that year. It was really tough, but I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad I didn't allow the limitation of my circumstances to dictate what doors I went through or didn't.
So being in France is essentially living in France but studying.
Yes, so it was like being a final year student at a French university. So you went in at year 3
Mm-hmm.
in the French uni, and then you have to select your modules, do your exams. So you're just another student, basically.
So you said you experienced some racism. Was that in
Yeah.
school or just being in France generally?
I don't think I experienced much at university, but I was in the south of France.
Yay!
It was just
Wow,
really
so you didn't go to Paris. You actually went to the south of where the elites live.
well. I went where I knew it was hot. Although the
Wisdom.
irony is that it snowed while I was there. Look at that. Would you believe it? You can't plan for these things. But I went at the university. I don't think so. I can't remember anyway. But general day-to-day life, goodness me, it was rough, and it was the kind of racism that we think we've grown out of here. But actually, I think I kind of prefer it. People get really confused when I say this, and let me explain. There's the underground racism, which I think happens a lot in this country, which is where, as a black person, you can't. It's done so subtly that you know why, and they know why, but you can't put your finger on that. You don't
Yeah.
have evidence to say this is why, but everybody at the table knows it's because you're black. So that makes it very difficult to call it out. It's very
Yeah.
polite, but it's very hidden.
Mm-hmm.
In France, whilst I was there, and I'm sure things are different now, I hope things are. When I was there, it was a lot more brutal, a lot more in your face. So the illustration that one of the many illustrations, I find this one the funniest, so which is why I say it. I was in a shop which was the equivalent of Poundland in France, and the owner of the shop, when I went in there, she said, "Oh, you, get out, get out." This is all in French. And I didn't know who she was talking to. So I just carried on doing what I was doing. And then because why would anybody take umbrage with me being in a pound or €1 store? Anywho, later on, I see that she's pointing directly at me. So she says, "Get out of the store." So I start laughing because I think it's really comical that somebody would think, I mean, I'm not a thief, but let me tell you, if I was going to, I'd set my heights a little bit higher than a €1 store. So I just thought it was really funny that you think if this is my level of aspiration as a thief, it's pretty big. Anyway, so then I started laughing. So I thought, surely you can't think I'm going to steal anything. But then she got really serious and she called the police on me. And then she told me to get out. You black, beep, 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 beep. I know you're here to steal something. Get out, get out. And then she physically pushed me out the store.
Wow.
And that's not even the worst thing that happened over there in terms of racism. So it was pretty rough. But at least you knew where you stood. You know what I mean? You could call that out. You could definitely.
You got pushed from where you stood.
Quite literally.
Wow. So hold on. So that's so interesting because you grow up in Broccoli, then you go to the school in Lee, private education, you're a minority in your school, the school have a fantastic ethos, and then you go abroad, and obviously we're talking, not to reveal anyone's age, but we're talking 2000 and, where are we now, 2005, 6?
A little bit before that, maybe 3.
So 2003. So, okay, cool. So we're 2003. You've now had a fantastic, great home life, great education. Obviously, A-levels don't go the way you want. University goes well. You now go to France. And then obviously the fact that you're black is now put in your face in a way that you've not experienced at home. How does that make Melissa feel?
Makes me feel really, at the time, made me feel really low. It really discouraged me because I just hadn't experienced anything like that before. But I was determined, and at that time my family was saying, just come home. Like, don't.
Wow.
You don't need to, because it was so incessant. It wasn't odd incidents. At the time I couldn't find anywhere to live because they would, when I turn up, they'd say, "Oh, you're black." No. Like, it was really rough. And so it was, I literally couldn't give money away to get somewhere to live. They just wouldn't have it. But I was determined. That's, it's part of my character. If I leave, I leave, but I won't be kicked out. That's absurd. I won't have that happen. So I committed to it, and I felt as though if I left, I would have allowed those individuals who had pressured me to dictate my degree, because of course that year counts towards my degree, and that's just not commensurate with my brand, and I can't have that happen. So I just had to dig in and just set my face like flint and get the job done, and try and take joy where you can. There's some horrible things happen in life, but there's always joy if you look for it hard enough. And I had some good things happen there. Do you know what I mean? So it was rough, and a lot of it was rough, and the majority of it was rough, but it wasn't all rough. And I think it helped my character in ways that I'm not sure what other things I could go through that could have developed that in me.
Okay, cool. Good. Well, it's not good, but I'm just trying to take it in because I think it's the first time I've heard that.
I think it might have been the first time I've told you that. Sorry.
Wow. Sorry, guys. I'm processing as you guys are processing. It's very intense. So, okay. So, you passed then the degree. So you're now qualified, ready to go. But obviously, in the back of your mind, law is still. You still want to be a part of the law. You don't want to be a French teacher or anything else. So, okay, you come back home. Obviously, you must be relieved to be back in English shores. No stress, no pressure. So what happens next?
So I come back from France. I have 1 year left of my degree, finish off the degree. That goes well. And then I decide I still want to do law. And there's something called a graduate diploma in law, which is effectively a 1 year law degree. And that puts you on par with law students.
1 second. When you say 1 year law degree, you're talking about 3 years in one.
Essentially, if you took out all of the options, like if you took out 50% of the options and just took the core units and only had 2 options, you'd be left with the graduate diploma in law. So it comes thick and fast. You've got it's fifth gear all the way.
Wow.
But I decided, yep, I think that's going to be for me. So I took a year out after finishing uni to save the money to do that course. I think it was about £8,000 at the time, which is, I suppose, it's quite normal now for courses. But just finishing as a graduate, debt coming out of my ears, nothing meaningful to show to for my apart from this degree certificate. That was a lot of money, and I didn't want to get myself into further debt. So I said, let me work and save the money for the course and do it that way.
So
that's what I done.
Work?
I worked in now 3. You know 3, the mobile phone shop?
Yeah.
I worked in 3 and I loved it.
I can't imagine you working in a phone shop. That must be
Really?
so like, people must have had to have taken contract size. There probably would have been no discussion. Yeah, get the most expensive tariff, you take it. I'm sure.
I really wasn't like that, you know. I wasn't like that, Lekin. I think I was a pretty mellow yellow kind of salesperson. I think anyway. I don't know, maybe I don't know. But I was actually at 3 for nearly 4 years at the end.
Wow.
Because I worked there whilst I was doing the intensive, the 1 year law degree.
Wow.
Because obviously I had to maintain myself whilst I'm studying, so still got to work.
And you was doing that in London, the intensive law. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you work for a year, then you start the 1 year intense plus working part-time at 3, and then you pass. And what's next?
Now, because I chose to become a barrister, there are 2 routes. Once you finished your law degree, there are 2 routes depending upon which branch of the profession you want to enter into. So if you want to become a solicitor, there was a course called the LPC. If you want to become a barrister, there was a course that was then called the BVC, which is the Bar Vocational Course. That's obviously the course that I wanted to do. So I then made the decision to let's do this whole thing again. Let's start saving up to do this course. But I then, rather interestingly, as an off-the-cuff, last-minute thought, I decided to put on the application that not just to apply for the full-time, but to apply for the part-time course, which would have then taken 2 years, not just 1 year. And I got it.
What do you mean?
So I had the option of doing the bar vocational course full-time, which would have been a year.
Yeah.
Or I could have done it part-time, which would have been 2 years.
Oh, got you.
I had always said, so I always planned to do it full-time, but I thought I've got an extra space on the form. Let's put it on there, shall we? And then and when it came back, I got into full-time and part-time. So at that stage, I then thought, oh, hold on a minute. Maybe if I do it part-time, I won't kill myself in the process, because it was tough working 20 hours a week and doing that course full time, the law degree. So I thought, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that with this. I could, but if I don't have to, let's Paul did that. And then during the course of that, I started to work at a solicitor's firm, a family law solicitor's firm, actually, because I practiced in family law. And I worked at that firm whilst I was completing my bar vocational course.
Cool. So you passed the bar, so you did it part-time, and so when you transition to this family law firm, you now leave 3?
Yes, so I leave 3 halfway through the bar vocational course.
Cool. So you passed the bar vocational course 2 years later, and then what's next?
Then it's time to apply the never-ending journey to get to the barrister door. Then there's something called a pupillage. And a pupillage is essentially the final part of the training journey for a wannabe barrister. And that's where a chambers, which is where the majority of barristers work from, a chambers will then take on 2 to 3 trainees
Yeah.
And for 12 months, for the first 6 months, you basically follow senior barristers around. You go to court with them every day. And they may give you small pieces of work to do, small pieces of research to do, but you just follow them around for 6 months. And then for the second 6 months, it's what they call you going getting on your feet. So then you start to get your own baby cases that you get to do for yourself. And at the end of that pupillage, that chambers decides whether they're going to take you on and you become a full-time tenant, or they've just trained you, but you're going to have to go and work somewhere else.
Got it. Cool. So, but that's a really difficult process though, isn't it? Because I speak to different people and they say the hardest thing to do is to become a barrister. So question then, is it easier to become a solicitor over a barrister?
I think in true lawyer fashion, let me put that in context. There are a lot more solicitors than there are barristers. So because the nature of what we do. So a solicitor is as many people will know, but a solicitor is the person who, more often than not, the minute you have an issue that affects the law, they're the person that you're going to call up. They're the person who's going to walk through your case with you. They prepare all your paperwork. They do all of that letter writing, and you meet with them. You go to their office. That's all the solicitor. It's not until you get to court that I get tagged, and then I jump into the case to represent what's happening in court. Now, there's some distinction in that because now we have something called solicitor advocates, and they do a bit of the court work. And there are some barristers who do a little bit of the solicitor work. But by and large, those are the two professions. So because the majority of your case is run by solicitors, there are far more solicitors than there are barristers. So I think it's something like, let's say of the entire legal profession, 85% are solicitors and 15% are barristers.
Okay, so essentially you can, after spending all that time studying, obviously depending if you choose to do what was once called a BBC or an LPC, but then obviously if I'm now trying to plot out my life, I'm more likely to get a job if I'm a solicitor because one, there would be more roles available. Is that accurate?
Absolutely, okay. And that's 100% it. And on them, so then the intensity and the ferocity of the competition for pupillages is much higher because there's fewer around. And when I was doing it, the ratio was about 1 to 500. So for every one place, there was about 500. There's about 500 or so. About 500 or so applications.
And also, when just thinking out now, actually, barrister roles, is that available across the country or is it just a London thing?
Oh, across the country. The country. But you have different, just like you have different size solicitor firms, you have barristers' chambers that are just one person, just them doing their own thing. Then you've got barrister chambers that are like my size. Well, no, you've got in between that, some that are about 10 to 15 people. Then you've got the slightly larger ones, like my one, where you've got maybe 70, 80 barristers operating from there. And then you've got the really mega ones. But it depends on the size of the chambers and the type of work they do as to how many places they offer. So when I was training, for example, they had 3 places at the chambers where I now practice. They had 3 pupillage positions. Last year, when my chambers were recruiting, we only advertised for 1 place.
How many applicants did you get?
More than one, more than one.
Now, how many applicants did you get for the one role?
I don't know the figures, but on average, I would have said probably about between 400 and 600, easy, and that's a conservative estimate.
Wow. So, if I'm now thinking about, so we're now at the point where you finished, you're qualified. Well, no, you wait to get your pupillage now. So you apply. How many different chambers did you have to apply to get your one?
Well, it's a bit like UCAS because you've got a limited amount of chambers that you can apply to. It's
Hold on a second. What? So you can't even just go on Indeed and go apply.
No. It's like UCAS. So you have a limited amount. I think you have I think it's 12.
That's not too bad. I thought it was free. Like you okay, that's fine. That kind
I think it was 12. I think it's either 6 or 12. One of the two. I can't remember. It's a long time. But anyway, it's either 6 or 12. And then you have to apply 18 months in advance.
I'm with you. So if you don't get your 12, do you have to now wait for another year?
Yeah, so if you don't get any of your 12, then you've got to wait for the next round. Then you're up against the next fresh set of graduates. But hold on, it gets worse, Lekan, because after 5 years, your qualification goes stale. They call it going
What do you mean, expires?
Yes, pretty much. You're no longer eligible. You have to redo that course.
And pay the 10 probably plus grand.
Yeah, I think maybe it's like 16 grand now, probably. It was about 12 grand when I was doing it. So
sorry, my head is hurting.
Yeah, it does. It makes your head hurt, so that's quite it's quite understandable.
Okay. So let's just understand. It's just for just to recap your career path then. So A levels don't go well. You do language degree, and then you go to France for a year. You come back, you work so that you can pay for your BVC, which is the bar vocational course. And then you now still working part-time, but then you now take the what was the next one? Oh no, you are now working for a family solicitor firm, and to get court experience. You're now saying, right, the final target's there, pupillage. You now apply for your 12. Out of the 12, how many did you get offers for?
I think I only put 5 on my form, I should say.
What do you mean?
I know that sounds
choices. Why would you minimize it?
I know it sounds strange. I know it sounds strange, I think. And it is strange, and I accept that. Because, it is. I get it. It's weird. But, you've got what area of law you want to practice in. So that narrows down the pool. And then within that area, it's what, even within, if you decide on a particular area, like, for example, my family law, family law can mean all different things. There are chambers that only do the type of law that happens with divorce once a couple separate and sorting out those kind of arrangements. It's called matrimonial finance. That's all they do. You've got others who just do children work. You've got others who do a mixture of both. You've got some who do a bit of family and a bit of civil and a bit of criminal. So you've got to think about, what type of work do I want to do? Do I want to specialize too soon? Do I want to keep it broad? And so that narrows down the choices. It narrowed it down for me because I knew that I had quite an idea about what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do. So that narrowed the choices down. So I apply first time round. I get one interview, which is not bad. Very often people don't get any. It's kind of accepted that you've just made up, you won't get any. Anyway, I got one interview. That went all right. Obviously, it didn't go brilliantly because I didn't get any pupillage offers that year. So that meant, all right, I've got next year now. I've got to buckle up and get ready for next year. And the next year, I can't remember how many I put. I think this time round, I got 2 or 3 interviews. And of that, I got a place.
Wow. So what year are we talking about when you get this offer? 2011?
I think it's 2010.
The year you got married?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think it's the year I got married. Yeah.
Cool. So 2010, you're in. How did you feel?
I don't start till 2011 though, remember? Because you've got to apply 18 months in advance.
Oh, okay. So you get your interview, you get accepted.
Yeah.
2011, you start.
Yes.
How does Mel feel in comparison to what you went through in France? Or did he not even come up in conversation? Was it like, hooray, next?
Sometimes people ask, how do you choose between being a solicitor or a barrister? And I think, Lekan, that you just know. You just know. Once you understand what each of them do, if you decided upon the law, you're going to know instinctively which one sounds like you. And I just knew, and Lekan, that for a very long time since I was a child, I was of the view that I was going to be a barrister. And so when it finally happened, I just felt very overwhelmingly grateful, and knew that by the time that I got it, I knew that I was going to be really good at this. And it was right that I got this place because I wasn't bluffing. I'm going to be good at this thing. And so I didn't feel, I didn't have any kind of imposter syndrome about it, that's for sure. I was like, yeah, this is me. I should be here. And, just to give you a very quick anecdotal story, I think that year when I was waiting to start my pupillage, I was doing some advocacy for some like charities. And once I was in court doing some advocacy, and I met just after the announcement, because they announce it just like university places, it all comes out the same day. Who's got a place, who hasn't. And so I was at court with this chap who, he had straight A's A level, straight like first university. I got a 2-1 at uni, by the way. So he's got first, which is pretty, I mean, a first is pretty normal these days for law graduates. But anyway, so all A's, A level, first university, third round. This is the guy's third round of applying for pupillages, nothing. And the third or fourth round, and there I am, second time, didn't even fill out all of my 12. And I'm sitting next to him with my place ready, waiting to start. And so, that just really affirmed for me that you've got to know why you are different. You've got to know why shouldn't it be me? We come back to that foundational way of looking at life. Why shouldn't it be me? And I think that's what sets you apart from the academic qualifications that might say, on paper, you look like you could make it. But in reality, it may be a different matter altogether. And I think that distinction is often met in what your view is about your own capabilities and why you think you should be doing this and why you think you're good at it. And by the time I was ready to start, I was persuaded this was my place. I was persuaded that some chambers had my pupillage, and my job was to find it. It wasn't whether I was going to get one.
Right. So we need to unpack this, because for many people that are watching, they're going to say, well, you knew from when you were 5, or you went to a really good school, and you were kind of set up for success. But I kind of hear something that is kind of very intentional on your part, because there's this notion of, is there room for me? And I think we talked about it before, is that when you're now going on this path, which is very narrow,
mm-hmm.
there has to be something more than, like you said, on paper, more than what your mummy and daddy can connect you with, more than what school you went to, what network you're in. Actually, for you, considering the odds were against you because you didn't go down a traditional path, you didn't have all of the perfect track record. The question, I guess, is you would now be saying to yourself, why? Because you didn't get it the first round, the first year round, isn't it? So what happens between the first year and the second time round when you now apply and you get it? What changed inside of you?
I asked myself the question that I knew that any person interviewing me was going to want to put to me, whether directly or indirectly. And that question was, why should it be you? Not why do you want it to be you, but why should it be you? Because of course you want it, everybody wants it, and everyone applies. So that doesn't set you apart. But what sets you apart, the things that people often try to hide about themselves, are the very distinguishing features that make you stand out and make you stand apart from the others. And in that year, I spent a lot of time in prayer, talking to God about, I'm sure I'm sure I'm meant to do this. But what is it about me that will make me a good barrister? And why should they take me above these 500, 600 who are applying, above the Oxbridge candidates, above the 4 A stars at A level and the first in the undergraduate degree? Why me? What is it that makes me stand apart? And in that year, I formulated that answer. And I believe that came across in my interview. I believe that came across in my application, because now my posture changes, Lekan. I'm no longer approaching it with what I call the Oliver Twist syndrome, with my begging bowl out, saying, please, will you give me an opportunity, please? I'm now coming from the perspective that, yes, there's a great deal that you can offer me, but my goodness, there's a great deal that I can offer you too.
So, okay. So you spend time doing that. Do you obviously in those days, was there YouTube? Yes, there was.
Listen
So
to
in
this
those
guy.
days,
In those days, was there YouTube? Wow.
sorry, forgive me.
Wow.
I'm not trying to, no
It's
shade,
right.
no shade.
It's
No
okay.
shade.
It's okay.
So, okay, so you're saying you spent time, you was obviously in times of meditation, self-reflection. Was there any other tools or anything else you did to kind of enhance that notion or that ability to have, no, was there anything that enhanced your ability to know that this is it, that I am the one that they should choose? Or like, for example, did you read any books? Was it any articles? Did you speak to friends? Or was it merely, I spent time with myself to know myself? And then once I explored all of that, I was able to create my narrative.
I think my answer may be 2 or 3-fold. I studied my craft. So I wanted to be clear that I understood. That's why I went to go and work in the firm, because the solicitor's firm, because family courts are closed, which means they're private. You can't just walk into a family hearing and see what's going on. You can do that in a criminal court. You can do that in most civil courts. You can't do that in a family case. So technically, I'm advancing that I want to do something that I wouldn't have been able to see. So
Wow.
I made it my task to get myself into that courtroom so I could watch and see and say from an informed position, yep, that's me. That's what I want to do. So I studied my craft. I've done a lot of work experience where I could, volunteered where I could to give myself exposure to the law. So that's what I've done on a craft basis. On a personal development basis, I spend a lot of time. As you know, and I'm a Christian, so I spend a lot of time in prayer. I spend a lot of time trying to understand more. I think learning, the way that I learn me is I learn me through my faith. I don't study me in and of myself. Because I don't think, to my view, I'm not going to get very much from that. So it wasn't so much about self-help books, like,
Cool.
love yourself and all these things. It was more about, so let me get to a place where I can understand in my relationship with God. He can reveal to me these things he's put inside of me, which I'm struggling to articulate, but let me know that I'm meant to be doing this. And so that was a lot of, as you say, there weren't really any specific books. It was just being open to discover myself and to be open to discovering and learning about me in the way that I learn about my craft, with that same passion, studying me like I studied the law, so that I'd understand who I am and who I'm not, what interests me, what doesn't, what motivates me, what doesn't, so I can speak about that confidently. So I think that's what I spend a lot of time doing that. Yeah.
Wow, my mind is blown. That's some heavy stuff. Because many times when we think about careers and what we're going into, because the drive is, I just need to get in. I just need to get in. That is almost like it's a mentality that you carry, right? It's like your parents go to school, get good grades so you can get a good job and you can live a good life. But then what now filters down to us is you just got to get in. You just got to get in. And then sometimes, and with many people, you get involved in careers or you get involved in courses that you don't really care about. You have no personal exploration. And what happens is you just keep bobbing around. And even if you have success, you still have the belief and feeling inside that this is not really me. Because I guess, especially being an ethnic minority, the focus is you just need to do better than us. So if you get a good job, that will tick the box for your parents. But then for you as a person, I guess the question we need to ask ourselves is, what ticks the box for you? Because you're the one that has to endure the difficulty. But if you endure difficulty without an element of purpose or an element of knowing, then it makes it that much harder, because it's almost like you're slugging for the paycheck or the promotion, but in your heart, you just wish you were doing something else. So it's really powerful stuff. So in another direction then, so people are listening now that either have done LPC, they're on their path. How does if you're not, so say for example, I'm 30 now.
Yes.
I'm doing something completely different. I'm a doctor. In fact, you won't even be a doctor yet because you'll still be studying. But I'm I'm a carer. I work in HR. I work in banking, retail banking, whatever. I'm working in something that is
Yeah.
not law. If I wanted, based on your fantastic explanation of what it is and what you need to do, how long would it take me, if I have a degree, that is, to, as a base, how long would it take me to start, obviously going through the process, fast track, how do I become a barrister? How quickly could I do it?
Well, firstly, I should say that a lot of people do. There are a lot of second career people doing the law.
When you say second career, are we talking people in their late 30s, 40s?
Late 30s, late 30s, late 40s.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And I think one of the reasons is because if you don't have a law degree, like I didn't, then in 3 years, essentially, you could be up and running as a barrister.
Wait. What do you mean 3 years?
Well, let's walk back. Let's walk back through my journey, shall we? So you've got some kind of degree, but yeah. So you got. It doesn't matter what the degree's in, but you've got some degree that qualifies you to do a graduate course because you're a graduate. So then you can do the 1 year law intensive degree. So that's year 1. Then you do the bar course, which you can do in a year. That's year 2. Then you do the pupillage because you can apply for pupillage even while you're doing your 1 year intensive law degree. You can apply for pupillage whilst you're doing the bar vocational course. So that as soon as you finish, you don't have that delay because remember, you can apply 18 months in advance and then you go straight into it. And there are a number of chambers and a number of organizations that will fund you doing that.
What do you mean fund?
Yeah, rewind. I mean, they'll pay for your course.
Huh? But I thought it was very. Hold on, wait. Hold on. If I'm doing my what's that, the BBC, or this is the art? Is this so? My BBC can be funded.
Yes, and your 1 year intensive can be funded.
So would you apply to the chambers before you started the journey?
Yes. You can apply to the chambers, and as barristers, we have these things called the Inns of Court. I won't get into it, but essentially, as a barrister, you have to join one of these 4 Inns of Court, and your inn can fund your studies. They have a whole set. Every inn has a scholarship fund, and they can pay for your graduate diploma in law. They can pay for your BVc. So that's there. That's available.
Right. But then I guess obviously I'm assuming, the amount of opportunities per applicants is a high ratio because obviously everyone would want to get the freebie, but I'm assuming we're talking about hundreds of people to get one bit of funding.
You're absolutely right, Lekin, but those are the kind of stats you need to get used to if you want to come to the bar because there's always there's nothing where it's going to be, oh, there's only 5 people applying for this. That just it's just not going to happen. You're always going to be dealing with the hundreds, but you can't let that intimidate you because, as I say, why not you? If you know why it should be you should be able to persuade somebody else, right? You can at least give it a stab. You've got nothing to lose by trying to persuade somebody else that it should be you. It's good practice.
Wow.
It's what we do in the law. We persuade others of our opinions. So it's good practice.
Wow. So hold on, because my perception about once you go into law, and obviously because I remember people that being at university, it was almost like if you didn't want to do the LPC, if you didn't want to go down the road, no, if you went down the road, sorry, that was just you for life. But you're saying that people are transitioning. Speak English. People are transitioning later in life to become barristers.
Yes. In my chambers, the workers, we've had some social workers trying.
Wait, sorry, I have to do that again. Did you say a social worker can be a barrister? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's not uncommon. We've had social workers, we've had people come from the army, we've had people, solicitors, we've had, I think there might be some doctors. We've had all different. Literally, there's no bar. There's no apart from having maybe a criminal conviction. There's nothing that will stop you.
Quite important.
Yeah, it's kind of a barrier. But other than that, there's nothing that you could have studied that will act as a barrier or a bar or profession to you saying, right, I want to switch.
Wow, this is powerful because for people that are watching, it means if you want to be a barrister, i.e., if it was in your plan A, but you didn't achieve X, there is still hope. You can still do it. You do not have to put your head down and say, I don't have time, or, that door is closed to me. It's for young people. Anybody can do it if you so desire. But then the key, which you learned this evening, is you have to know that you know that you're the one for the job. This is not like applying for something on the internet where you just push apply, and then once you go to the interview, you do your best and then you get in. This is something where one must set their mind focused and be very clear about who you are to the best of your degree, because obviously everyone is not all knowing, and be honest with yourself so that when you now present yourself, you can be focused. So I guess here's a question I'm throwing out there, not putting you on the spot. So from where you sit now, you've been qualified for X amount of years. In terms of opportunities for people to learn from people like yourselves, are there networks out there for that? Barristers specifically. I know there's lawyers, sorry, for solicitors.
I think last year I heard a rumor. Well, hold on. For those who want to join the profession, to be able to network with those who are already in the profession, is that what you mean?
Yes.
I think there are. Yeah, well, this is it. They're minimal, aren't they? And so sometimes the difficult things is these are all rather niche in that if you don't know what you don't know, right? So you wouldn't know where to look to find these things. But there are some events, these Inns of Court that I mentioned earlier. Sometimes they run events, but if you've never even heard of an Inns of Court, you're not going to know that they're running these events, are you? So that's why I paused, because it can seem exclusive because you don't know that it's out there. But if you are interested in it, then I don't think you have to look too hard to be able to find something that should show you a few opportunities. There's not very many, but there are some.
So, Inns of Court, is that how you spell it? Boom.
Yeah, apart from not the apostrophe.
Got you. Inns of Court, guys. That's the way in. So are these, just so people can understand, Inns of Court, is it an invitation only, or can you apply to register to turn up?
Yeah, Inns of Court are, as I said, they're the 4 institutions which every barrister in the country must belong to one of them. It's like a little, I want to say a membership, but it's because barristers are self-employed. It was traditionally a way by which we could mingle and meet with one another because we wouldn't meet otherwise. So it's but now they've become a bit more than that, and they offer scholarships and training and all these other things. So you can if you go to them, they're called Gray's. There's Gray's Inn. Shameless plug, I'm a Gray's Inn girl. So you have Gray's Inn, then you have Lincoln's Inn, you have Middle Temple, and you have Inner Temple. There's no hierarchy, so just find which one you like and see which one. Just go there. You can go on their page for events and see what they have going on. Some are much bigger than others. For example, Gray's Inn, my one, is the smallest of them. So we'll probably have less events than, say, a much larger one like Middle Temple. But it's worthwhile going on their pages and seeing what they've got going on by way of events. And I think that's a good starting point. And contacting their education department and saying, look, I want to find out what do you have going on. And I'm sure they'll be able to point you in the right direction because they're keen. They're recognizing that the profession is not really as reflective as they might like it to be of the society which it's meant to serve. And so they're trying to find opportunities to open doors. Although sometimes they don't really know how to do that. So if you go up and say, look, I want a door opened, I don't think you'd be met with a closed door at all.
Awesome. So guys, for everyone that's watching, if you want to know more information about how to get into this world of being a barrister, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, send us an email, Laken at at gmail.com, and obviously join our Facebook page, send some comments. Happy to give you the information that you need free of charge, so that you guys can get what you need. So I guess wrapping up then, Melissa, from your journey, from all the stuff that you've done, all the things you've accomplished, would you say that the journey has been everything you expected? Were there any moments of regret on the journey, or were you like, I'm good, I'm exactly where I wanted to be?
I think that sometimes even the most uncomfortable and difficult of circumstances can shape you in a way that you don't appreciate at the time. And so there are things that have happened along the way that if you had asked me before it happened, am I okay with it? It would have been a resounding no. If you asked me during it happening, it would be a resounding no. But all of those things, good and bad, comfortable and uncomfortable, painful and joyful, they've helped to make me the person that I am today. And the person that I am today, I like. And the person that I am today, yeah. And the person that I am today knows her very well. And so for that reason, I don't think that I would say that I have any regrets, because it's all learning, Lekan. You know, I believe that. It's all learning. It's all learning. If you're prepared to look for the lesson in it, you'll find it.
Powerful stuff. This is so good. I really want to carry on, but we need to go. So really appreciate your time, Melissa Harrison. Hold on, I have a question I haven't asked. Where's your wig? I'm joking. But another question is,
right, £400 for a bad weave. Come on, what's going on?
Yeah, it's not the will of God. So, question. So if you're a barrister, what are you? What is your title? Like, for example, do you have letters before your name? How does it work? Because I know you've got different titles, like.
Yeah. If you're a qualified barrister, then you just take the title barrister. You don't have any letters after your name. You just have the heading barrister underneath you. If you become a senior barrister, which is where you make an application to become what's known as a senior barrister, then you can add some letters after your name. At the moment, we have a Queen, so the letters are QC because it stands for Queen's Counsel. So you may see some barristers, and after their name, you'll see the letters QC. That means they have successfully applied to be recognised as a senior barrister in their profession, and they may do only. Usually, they do the top of the top of the top cases. You rarely see a QC down some grotty magistrate's court for a bail hearing. It's just not going to happen. So it's not going to happen. But those are only the really two tiers. Until you take silk, that's what that's called. Until you take silk, you're considered a junior barrister, whether you're 1 day after pupillage or 35 years after pupillage. You're a junior until you take silk. No, you don't have to take silk, but if you do, that's when you're considered a senior barrister.
Good to know. That was just for my purposes. I was going to bring a wig today, but I thought, it'd be just too much, and people just say this guy is just like, he needs to get out. Corona's affecting him. So yeah, I thought I'll leave it. But I have got a wig somewhere. Don't worry, guys. It's coming next week. So no, thanks very much again, Melissa Harrison, for your time and for your insight and your wisdom. As I said, guys, register on our Facebook page. We can answer all the questions you have about how to get on this journey if you want to join the road. And please see us next week. Next week, we're going to be speaking to someone who is killing it in the tech field. And I'm telling you, you're going to really, really enjoy her story. So bye-bye, everybody. And see you next week.